Now, I can't possibly provide you with legal advice in this forum, and it's not offered as such. Think of it as education or attorney advertising, but not legal advice. And with that out of the way, let's talk about the law. Terrified about your trademarks. Well, it is Halloween, so it seems appropriate. But fear being such an excellent motivator, I'm wondering if that's maybe not even completely ethical to use that. Let's just change that to concerned, because that's what I really want. I want you to be concerned about your trademarks. So I'm going to do a little presentation for you right now to help you understand why. Why be concerned about your trademarks? Well, I want to use Venn diagrams in this presentation to help explain why you should be concerned about your diagrams. And I know a lot of you know what a Venn diagram is, and it'll make perfect sense. But I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to learn from this presentation, so I'm quickly going to go through what a Venn diagram is. You've probably seen them before. You might not have known what they were called. A lot of times they look a bit like this. They've got two or more overlapping shapes, and their intent is to show logically how two sets are related. So you've got a population on the left and a population on the right, represented by the circles. And the idea here, especially in this particular version, is that there's a third population that would fit into either group. So as an example, here on the left, we have something that has two legs. On the right, perhaps we have something that flies by itself. And as an example of something with two legs but doesn't fly by itself, we might have a child running in a playground or something of that nature, and then something that flies by itself but won't fit in the first population there could be a butterfly. It's got more than two legs, but it does fly by itself. Now that third population in the middle has to fit both of those criteria in order for that to make any sense. So I'd select a duck. It flies by itself and it has two legs. Okay, so there's a very simple example of a Venn diagram. I want to show you one more just for the purposes of making sure we really understand this. This is a very simple one as well. I'm going to argue that this is also a Venn diagram because it shows the relationship between two populations logically. On the left, we might have my two brothers. And then in the right circle, we'd have people who give me the respect I deserve. I hope my brothers aren't watching this video, but you can see in this example, they don't overlap at all. There's no relationship here whatsoever. Here's a third one. Now, this one's the important bit, so this is where you should pay attention. I still have two circles. They're not overlapping, but they are touching in exactly one point. And that's going to be very important. In this example, in the population on the left, we have the relevant purchasing public. You've heard me talk about this many times before, and I'll talk about it again, I'm sure, quite a bit. They're a very important part of what we do. And on the right, we have a few things, starting with the brand. The brand is how you present yourself to the public, how you want people to see your organization or your company. All right, very deliberate stuff. But also inside that circle right there, we have all of the goodwill. We have all of the goodwill that's produced by how you work, right? So if you're branding yourself as a price point competitor and you manage to come in at that price point, perhaps you brand yourself as the best of the best in your industry, and so you work really hard. That generates this goodwill. Your stuff is always really good, and your branding matches that goodwill. So, David, where's the trademark? Okay, so bam, it's right there. It's that one spot that I talked about. It's that one spot where these two populations actually connect. It's a tiny little thing. It's your trademark. It's the word or words that are your trademark, the logo, whatever it happens to be. Tiny little thing, but absolutely vital importance, because without it, what you end up with is this here. And this could potentially an existential problem. There's no connection now between the relevant purchasing public on the left and everything that you do on the right. They have the trademarks are how people find you, right? Without your trademark, they can't find you. This is why it's super important to have and keep that trademark. Now, you might be thinking you need to go through a rebranding for some reason. So you can create a new trademark and all of that. That may be absolutely the right choice. But you still need to think about what happens when that trademark that people are used to looking for is gone or different, that type of thing. All right, so I also want to talk quickly about who enforces your trademarks. And the fact is, it's just you. Your trademarks give you the right to enforce it, but it's you that has to do it. It's not completely true. It's just very close. One example that stands out to me is the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. These folks, if you have a registered trademark or copyright, you can record that with the CBP, and they will watch the borders for things that are pirate or counterfeit, and this recordation gives the CBP the authority to detain, seize, forfeit, ultimately destroy those things that are not something you've authorized. So they will watch that. It's one example, one small example that I can find of somebody else policing your trademarks. Otherwise, it's your job. Hamartia. This is a word that comes from a Greek meaning to miss or to err. And what I'm really talking about here is how do we really screw things up? I want to talk to you here at the end about some of the heavy hitters, some of the big things that might screw us up. Really starting with the beginning with a failure to clear, right? Your clearance. I talk about that quite often. I don't want you spending any money at all on your trademark. Don't buy business cards. Don't do a vinyl wrap on your delivery van, a sign over the door. None of that until you know you're using a trademark that you get to keep. All right, and an internet search is a great way to start, but that's not very broad or very deep, honestly. What you're looking for is a proper, full, competitive analysis of what you're up against with the proposed mark that you're considering using. If you consider your trademark as being as important as I'm hoping you're starting to glean, it could be an existential problem. So it's really not very expensive to go through this process. Look around, you'll find something. Just do what you can to make sure that whatever trademark you're considering is something you get to keep. Now, once you've got it, you need to use it because trademark rights come from use. Now, just using it doesn't really capture it completely. There's ways that you might think you're using it, but you're not. Trademark mutilation, I've talked about it before. If you've got a trademark and you've registered it, right, and you're using half of it, and instead of like this, you're using half of it over here and half of it over here, now you're not really using the trademark that you registered. This is trademark mutilation. It can, it at least weakens your mark and might be catastrophically a catastrophic failure. You also need to use it as a trademark. If it doesn't function as a mark, you're not using it as a trademark. So you're using your mark, but you're not using it in a trademark way. And that would be a failure to use your mark. And it, again, weakens the rights that you have. So you need to use your trademark in a trademark way. If you aren't sure what that is, find out. That's very important. Another one that comes up is licensing incorrectly. You can license your trademark to another party. That absolutely works. It's not that uncommon at all, honestly. But you can't just license it and then walk away and consider it a passive income stream. That weakens your mark as well. The idea is that, like I've said, the trademark is your trademark, but it's how the relevant purchasing public finds you. And they need to find you, right? Because that's what it's for. If they use the trademark and they find somebody else because you've licensed it and you weren't part of that at all, that trademark doesn't work as a trademark, not really. And that weakens your rights to the mark. So want to make sure if you're doing licensing, you do it correctly. talk to somebody about it. The last one in this list is failing to maintain your registrations. You put all that effort and work and time and money into getting these things registered as well you should, but that's not where it ends. You have maintenance to do. Not a lot, not often, but you need to stay on top of it. You need to have a way that you know when it's time to do these maintenance tasks. And there's a whole lot of solutions there, and we'll certainly talk about them fairly often, I'm certain. So that's the end of the deck. With that, let's head back to the office. I do hope you found that terrifyingly useful. It's all your intellectual property. You have more of it than you think, and we'll be back to talk again soon.